Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
There's a part of me that wants to consider this a bit of a breather week. Justin Bieber is coming with an album bomb next week that could well have a smattering of Lana Del Rey in competition. It's probably going to break apart a pretty weak Hot 100 at the moment, and it basically places a giant asterisk around any of the changes or chart positioning as of now. In short, I don't really expect much that happened here to last, for better and worse, especially as I don't really consider the new Justin Bieber a net positive. Check out my main channel, you'll see more about that soon. But for a change of the pace, the top 10 is actually pretty interesting right now, especially with the new number 1 going to Up by Cardi B. I'll be very honest, I did not expect this song to do as well as it has, and I don't expect it to hold the top spot next week, but it got there based on consistency in all channels. Strong sales, great streaming, a legit radio run. But the funny thing is that it won on the margins, because right behind it is Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic, with better sales and radio, but just a little bit less streaming and YouTube. And I'd argue it's got even more momentum in channels less likely to be attacked by an album bomb. It is primed to go to number 1, the only question really is when. Now all this is kind of funny, because Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, it's still here at number 3 with okay streaming and on top of the radio, but it did peak there, and that makes it vulnerable. And then we got What's Next by Drake at number 4. I knew it was gonna lose the top spot last week, and it's got the dominant streaming to do well, but those sales evaporated and the radio run is a lot slower. It might have landed on top, but it'll be fight to get back up there. Then there's Save Your Tears and Blinding Lights by The Weeknd at number 5 and number 6 respectively. The former's got more streaming and thus the lead, the latter's got more sales, and while a bit ahead on the radio, doesn't have enough to a margin to avoid really sliding back. Then back in the top 10 we got Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby at number 7, which had just a huge sales week. I want to blame the Grammys for that because it did not get a boost on streaming and the radio, but it also hopped over Mood by 24K Golden and Ian Dior at number 8, which at this point is riding on residual radio and is fading pretty fast. Then we got 34 plus 35 by Ariana Grande, Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion somehow holding steady at number 9. Basically all it has is radio. That will do it, just a margins game there. But it has enough to stand over Wants and Needs by Drake featuring Lil Baby, which despite having huge streaming, doesn't have anything else, so it fell back to number 10. Now things get a little bit more interesting in our losers and dropouts too, especially in the latter category. I don't really put a ton of stock in Holy by Justin Bieber featuring Chance the Rapper leaving. It'll probably be back next week, but I did find it kind of interesting on how Golden by Harry Styles, Somebody's Problem by Morgan Wallen, and Tyler Hero by Jack Harlow, they all underperformed and fell off the charts. I thought at some point maybe all of these could have had more legs. But honestly, we didn't really have that many losers this week either. Off the debut, Lemon Pepper Freestyle by Drake featuring Rick Ross expectedly slid down to 31. Real As It Gets by Lil Baby featuring ESTG went to 58. Hold On by Justin Bieber slid to 59. It's gonna rebound, likely next week. And Hellcats and Trackhawks by Lil Durk skidded down to 94. But the rest of our losers, they're just continuing off of last week, with Beers and Sunshine by Darius Rucker at 81, and Whoopty by CJ at 45. It's on its way out, but it's unfortunately got enough to get onto the year-end list. Whoopee. Now, as I've said before, in transition weeks like this, I don't put a lot of stock in our gains and especially our returns. Big album drops tend to blow most of the latter off of the map, so even if Baila Conmigo by Selena Gomez and Ra Alejandro is back at 84 courtesy of her EP, and Like I Want You by Giveon got a nice boost up to 87, and Undivided by Tim McGraw and Tyler Hubbard's at 100, I don't expect any of these to last. But our gains do seem a bit stronger. First we got Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf continuing up to 25. This has momentum, people. We're not getting rid of this. That is concerning. And Pick Up Your Feelings by Jasmine Sullivan also up to 75 as she's got some radio underneath her. That will insulate her a little bit from an album bomb. Then there's Heartbreak Anniversary by Giveon up to 30. Probably will take a pretty big hit next week, but he's also got momentum. And No More Parties by Coi Leray featuring Lil Durk on the remix, which is having a real streaming moment moment that I have to hope will last a little bit longer, even if I do expect a disruption to be incoming. But from there, we actually have a pretty limited list of new arrivals. Pretty odd list too, but we're starting off with number 90, Settling Down by Miranda Lambert.
A couple of questions, am I settling up or settling down? Am I settling up or settling down?
There have been very few things as draining to me as a critic as watching Miranda Lambert score hits with some of her least interesting and most compromised material. I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm happy she's seeing success, maybe it was just a question of timing or management, either alone or with the Pistol Annies, but I remember her best material, hits or otherwise, that didn't see a lot of traction and they probably should have, and when you know it's less to do with quality and more to do with promotion and that the majority of fans don't know that, it's just frustrating for those in the know. Now, you know what, to her credit, Settling Down is probably one of the best songs on the album. The sandy patter of the groove might feel a little bit clunkier than I would like, opposite the guitars and the mandolin and the touches of organ, not helped by Jay Joyce's production that just feels a little bit over-managed here. And you know what, I do like Natalie Hemby's touches to punch up the writing, but I think my larger issue is that Miranda Lambert just sounds utterly disengaged on the song. I get that some of the weariness is part of the point, the open question of how or where she might lay down roots, that she could very easily fall into that life or just keep on the road, which has really been an arc of her previous albums in the past several years. But I guess why this doesn't amount to more comes down to the fact that it's not better of when she was touching on this territory both with the Pistol Annies and on The Weight of These Wings. She set herself a higher standard, and a lot of the colloquial touch points that she has here, they just feel a little less personal, a bit more thin. Again, it is a good song, I do like it, but she's capable of greatness. Just saying. Next up, number 88, Daywalker by Machine Gun Kelly and Corpse.
Fight! Yeah.
At this point, I have to ask why. Machine Gun Kelly, did your team just give up trying to work Bloody Valentine and Forget Me Too as singles? Because the latter one has Halsey on it, it's a hit waiting to happen. Why pivot to go in this direction? Now for those of you who don't know, Corpse, who also goes by Corpse Husband, is a VTuber on YouTube known for Let's Play, his guttural voice, and his breakthrough on TikTok, E-Girls Are Ruining My Life. Quick review of that, it got overexposed due to TikTok and it's the definition of edgelord material, but I also didn't really think it was bad, especially compared to this field and trap. But this though, this is one of those cuts that should work better than it does. The shrill, eerie synth building off the bass rumble and the faster percussion might be an acquired taste, but I didn't find it all that bad. Now granted, I've been listening to clipping since 2014, so I think my standards when it comes to eerie production that's a little off-kilter are entirely skewed. And you know what, for what this song is, a murderous moment where both rappers are talking about fighting and killing people, I actually kind of think Corpse kind of kills this. I mean, pardon the pun, but in both his growl and his shouting, he sounds legit intimidating, and Machine Gun Kelly just doesn't. I mean, forget the pop-punk pivot, this has really been MGK's problem since the very beginning. He just can't sell this kind of intensity in any genre, so even if you get that tasteless Capitol Riot reference, I'm more distracted by how on the first hook where he's shouting fight, he sounds like he just cannot commit. I mean, full disclosure, I was expecting this song to be way worse than it is, but while I don't think it's precisely great, it's not bad either. Unlike number 83, Follow You by Imagine Dragons. There's a part of me that doesn't even want to open up this discussion by asking if Imagine Dragons are still around, because they're an established brand with a silent majority audience that will back them, and they were probably just taking some time off away. And there is a part of me that's very grateful that we're not getting Cutthroat charting, because Dan Reynolds delivering the worst vocal performance of his career and of 2021 thus far in any genre on that Frankenstein's monster of a song, that should be buried at all costs. We don't don't want that charting. In comparison, Follow You just seems kind of dry and blocky with formless drums, a jagged synth that doesn't flatter anything, especially Reynolds' theatrical delivery, which feels like it needs like a more robust arrangement to not sound so jarring, especially with some of those faux doo-wop backing vocal embellishments. And that is kind of relevant because the song's content is about Reynolds getting a text from his soon-to-be ex-wife, which then sparked them to give the relationship another shot. They called off the divorce, but the song has a lot of weird, guilt-trippy elements where it's implied that she cheated, she's very disappointed in herself, she's self-destructing, and he wishes he could step in and help her fix it, but he'll follow her regardless. But there's no sense of intimacy to the song, no sense that the reconciliation makes them better as a whole, or that this is actually a relationship that can last longer. Just feels really haughty and pompous to me. Not something that I'd ever want to go back to, even if I had an emotional stake in it. So yeah, this is bad. And you know what? Well, it seems like we might be in this territory. Number 79, Lost by NF featuring Hopsin.
Don't like to let no air in with a pair of gloves that I hope doesn't perish. I discovered though when I get holes in them and I let joy in, I'm in higher spirits. My mistakes are like a screaming parrot, just repeating lyrics I can barely bear.
This is the first time that Hopsin has ever charted on the Hot 100. Yeah, years away from all the times you would have expected he would have broken through, and all the times I would have expected his career was over, he's now a guest star on an NF single, where we get the same hazy backing symphonic arrangement with bombastic trap snares and strings, and where I could swear that NF spends half his goddamn verse offbeat. And, oh yeah, Hopsin killed this. Almost to a distressing degree. Not only is his flow better whenever he switches it up, he just sounds way more hungry and natural than NF going into his structured but dry technician approach to rapping. And the content is better too. Hopsin acknowledges that to some, he might as well have been a parody of what he tried to do, and that he fell off hard, he lost his passion for rap, and if this is his one moment that he's gonna try and take to redeem himself, he's gonna go for it. I guess my frustration is that it's all on an NF song, and NF is all about framing the track about the duality between his pride and the underlying terror that he's losing everything and then becoming lost. I mean, it's not a bad premise, mind you, but this is where his lack of lyrical detail and his willingness to go for bargain barrel aspirational platitudes doesn't have the same intensity or reality as when Hopsin's gonna cut deeper, as someone who was genuinely lost. So yeah, the entire track feels a bit unbalanced, but I did like this more than the last NF single we got, and if 2021 is gonna give us a Hopsin redemption arc, you know what, hell, I've rooted for worse things. Number 70, On the Ground by ROSÉ. So I'm kind of stunned that we got this. For those of you who don't know, ROSÉ is a member of Blackpink, who came off a pretty robust worldwide breakthrough last year, and while it's a thing for K-pop acts to have some solo side projects, normally you don't see them until the group has a stronger, more consistent foothold, or if they do, they're confined to mixtapes, and they certainly don't see charting crossover, which seemed to happen with Jennie's single released back in 2018. But here we got a single from an upcoming 2-song EP, and I suddenly get why this actually has some traction. Most because ROSÉ's English is a lot stronger due to being born in New Zealand, and that lets YG immediately leverage her crossover appeal for American markets. And you know, I don't mind the content either. Reflecting on how much success you have seen, you're looking then to ground and center yourself. That's a good sentiment. Keep yourself honest. Which is probably why this song starts a little bit more in acoustic pop, and that's a good choice. The problem is that it doesn't really stay there, as then we get a buzzed out synth breakdown with more faded backing vocals after the hook, and with all the pop percussion sliding in behind her, the song just feels a little bit more flimsy overall, not as earthy and organic as it maybe could have been for this brand of pop. It's not a bad tune overall, I can't say I dislike it, but okay, come on, if YG wants to work a crossover single that has legs, just push Lovesick Girls. The song's terrific, deserve more of a run. And finally, number 36, Street Runner by Rod Wave.
Trying to figure out what's next, so scared to fail, I'm calculating my every step. Gotta watch my back and keep my scrap, but nonetheless.
And to round things out, Rod Wave has a new single for his project coming out this year. I've been rooting for this guy a decent bit, and even when I see another song that's just one verse, an aborted bridge, and a limited hook, and an extended outro, I really wanted this to be great, and yeah, this might be the best thing he's done to date. Or at least it's close. What kind of shocked me is how this sort of song should not work as well for me. It's a little bit underwritten, the production has some rough edges and the percussion blending still. Hell, it's built off a slightly chipmunk sample of a Ruth the Bee song. Yeah, that was the woman who made Lost Boys back in 2016. You all forgot that song existed. And yet, I don't know if it's just the fact that Rod Wave has that deeper, soulful presence that can anchor this, or the fact that the backing pianos really nail the tired, melancholic vibe of being on the road, or the fact that the extended voicemail message in the outro is feeling real and not cloying or overstated. Hell, I'd argue the greatest strength is that it does feel personal and intimate in a way that a lot of trap doesn't allow itself to be. And it's kind of funny that Miranda Lambert song plays to similar sentiments and has a lot of actual parallels, but that was a song where the rougher edges don't flatter or augment the open questions that it has, and the lack of specifics hold it back, where Street Runner might want to deflect away, looking for the lights to take him higher, but her presence keeps the picture way more human. I gotta admit, this got to me in a way that way more than I thought it would. Now I'm kind of annoyed that next week it's gotta face the album bombs and somehow hold the streaming. Well, you know what? I really hope it does. Best of the week by a country mile. This is something special. What an excellent song. Now, worst of the week, it's Imagine Dragons with Follow You. I can't imagine you're surprised. But even outside of that, I can't really complain about the rest this week. It was not bad. But next week, we're in album bomb territory, so strap in for the Bieber on the horizon. Till then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse.